Hey everyone, it's Lindsay. Welcome back to another video. Today I want to share with you how to make your own reusable stencils. Plus I have a free SVG cut file so you can make your own as well. Now over on my blog, I already have some stencil SVG files over there for you to download and cut for free. I have quite a few. Some of them are layers, some of them are just kind of standalones, but I will leave a link to that down below. But those I normally cut from cardstock. I'm only going to be using them a couple of times, but I have a few stencils that I've made that I really like to use a lot, and cardstock just doesn't hold up that well. A few of them are these little X's and circles. I also have a coffee stain stencil that I just like to use quite often, and they don't hold up with cardstock. I maybe get 3 uses out of them and then they've deteriorated. So I wanted to find a way without buying something new, a way to make my own reusable stencils that lasted a little bit longer. One thing I do have on hand is my laminator and some laminating pouches. Now, I understand you can buy stencil material and cut that out with your Cricut, but I was looking for a way to make my own stencils and reusable at that without having to go and buy something else. So what I decided to do was take my laminator and go ahead and laminate some empty pouches. Now, there are a few different kinds of laminating sheets. I've tried it with the thicker ones, the 5 mil. I've tried it with the thinner 3 mil ones. It works beautifully with both. The 5 mil is obviously a little thicker. Your 3 mil is thinner. Just whatever one you use, make sure you have that appropriate setting on your laminator when you put these through. Now, the beauty about these is I can run quite a few through in my laminator in just a few minutes, and then I have them ready to go. Now, I have a stash of laminating sheets ready to go, and I have some thinner laminating pouches and thicker ones. I will be using the thicker one today because I want these stencils to hold up a little bit longer. But the thinner ones work great too. And then I just keep them all bundled up, even those little extra scraps, because they make great stencils as well. If you want to cut a littler stencil or anything like that, I like to keep those scraps and use these up as much as I can. So I will be working with a few stencils that I will leave over on my blog. This will be one of them. This is a cloud stencil. Now, a lot of companies have these out already. So if you do not have a cutting machine, you can buy these pre-made from companies and they are great stencils to use. However, the whole point of me buying my Cricut was for me to quit buying as much. So make as much as I can. So I decided to draw my own, which I did, and I will be cutting it out of this laminated pouch so I can create a long-term reusable stencil. So I went ahead and loaded this cloud stencil into my Cricut program, and I'm sizing it to be 6 inches across by 6 inches down. So a normal card making size stencil. Now another thing you can use are card fronts, which I also have quite a few of over on my blog. I have some card fronts that I think would make excellent stencils, one of them being this butterfly. And this I have used on cards a few times. I will leave those videos linked down below as well. They're short videos, so it doesn't take a long time to watch them. But this is a lot of fun to use as a card front and also as a stencil. So this one I am sizing to be 4¼ by 5½ inches, so a normal standard size A2 card base. However, if it was a patterned background card panel, I would be sizing it slightly bigger. So then I had some overhang over the edges. Size it appropriately as you have those patterns on there. Okay, now we're going to get to the cutting part. We are going to choose plastic packaging for our cutting material. And then we're going to change our pressure to more. Now at this point, you're going to go ahead and cut that first round. Now a few tips when you are cutting this. The first one is whenever you put this down, make sure you really press it down onto your cutting mat. You want a nice sticky cutting mat for this. This is a slick material. It does have a tendency to move around. So in order to make sure that everything stays put while it is cutting, I also like to tape the edges and corners. So I tape all 4 edges, just little strips. It doesn't need to be the full thing, but I will tape all 4 edges and all 4 corners as well. And then give it a really good press down into that mat so it's not moving around at all. Now we load it into our machine and we're going to go ahead and press that cut button and let it cut away. Now with the more pressure, with the plastic packaging, you're actually going to get 2 passes for each of those cuts. So you'll see as it cuts this first one, it will go around once and cut it, and then it also does a second round, and it goes through the entire process 2 times. But it is still not going to cut through this material yet. This is a standard blade. If you used maybe a deep point blade or something, it would do a better job. But again, I'm trying not to buy anything. I'm using what I have on hand. So when this comes out, check your machine. Check and see if it's cut through. A good way to do that is stick a spatula under. If it's not popping up, it's not cut all the way through. So we're not going to unload it. Do not unload it. Press that cut button again. Your machine is going to be prompting you and your program is going to be prompting you that it's time to unload. Ignore it. Cut it again. Now what this is going to do is give you another 2 passes for each one of those. Now for my machine, that is enough. However, do not unload until you check it and you make sure that your machine has cut through on that second cutting round. If you need to go a 3rd time, go a 3rd time. If it hasn't cut by the 3rd time, you might need a new blade. But 2 passes does it for me. You might have a few spots like I did here that are still just kind of connected together. But they were very small. I just used a pair of scissors to kind of snip that little spot. But this comes out beautifully. These butterflies were popping out. I had one that stuck a little bit right on this one, but this one came out without scissors. It was just attached in a little spot. And then my little cloud stencil had a bottom left corner that just didn't want to release. It needed a little snip as well, and it was ready to go. But that's all there is to it. I absolutely adore the way these turned out, and they work so beautifully, and they're a little bit more rigid than those cardstock stencils that I've been cutting, and it just holds up to the ink blending a little bit well. Here's a closer look at them on some black paper. They do have a little bit of static to them, so keep that in mind. And then when I am done, I do like to cut off all those little extra pieces that are still a little bit larger so I can use those to make even more stencils. I don't like anything to go to waste. Now, of course, these stencils are not good unless they work. So I did go ahead and just do a quick test for you on camera. This is Distress ink like I would use any other time when I'm ink blending, and some ink blending brush and some regular plain white cardstock. I did use a darker ink color on this because these do have a tendency to stain a little bit more than your normal stencil. I don't know if it's just because the laminating sheets are a little bit more porous, but it does clean off. There's no extra ink left on them or any extra product. It just does stain a little bit more. So keep that in mind. It might not come completely clean, but it does hold up to a cleaning. So you can use your baby wipes on it. You can spray them and wipe it down with a microfiber, but it works just as well. Now, this is a little bit more expensive than using cardstock. However, in the long run, if you're going to be using a stencil over and over and over, it's worth to cut it out from a long-lasting reusable material like this. And laminating pouches are a little bit cheaper than that stencil material. So that is going to do it for me today, you guys. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you haven't subscribed already, you can do that down below. Until next time, happy crafting.